In the interview environment, either the employer controls the interview or you control the interview as the candidate. And my recommendation is that you control the interview. Not all employers are experienced at interviewing, particularly the more senior in the organisation. They'll tend to interview on a less regular basis. You start the interview by establishing what I call a higher baseline. So this is where you take your experience, your preparation, and you position that, and you let the employer know what you've done to prepare. It elevates the level of conversation. Then in terms of the conversation that you have with the employer, you have to go into that environment not expecting to be asked certain questions, not rote learning answers to expected questions, but instead knowing, having interrogated the job specification, spoken to the recruiter, done your research on the organisation, knowing what experience, what achievements you need to communicate in that interview room to be the candidate that progresses or is the candidate that gets hired. Switching roles in an interview is difficult because if the employer is conditioned to ask you lots and lots of questions, you really want a conversation, and you want to create a conversation because we feel comfortable having conversations. We don't feel comfortable being interrogated. So, employer asks you a question, you can ask a counter question. Ask for their opinion on what you've said. Clarify whether you've answered the question properly. So start to create that two-way dialogue. The more preparation you've done, the more intelligent your questions can be. And one of the mistakes people make in the interview environment is to wait till the end to ask their questions. No, you don't have to. You can ask questions throughout, because if the employer comes away from that, they feel like they've had a conversation rather than interrogating you, they're going to have a better gut feel about you as a candidate for their organisation. In the interview, you've got to put your experience across, the most relevant experience to help the employer make the right decision, which is to progress you or offer you the position. So the research that you've done, you'll have a clue as to what's the most important thing for that employer. The job specification, the research, the insights you've had from your recruiter. So you've got to position that. If you get to the end of the interview and they've not asked you the right question for you to be able to communicate that, you have to fill in the gaps. So one of the things you can do towards the end of the interview is to say, look, from the research that I've done, I'm pretty sure that this particular area of experience might be relevant. You might want to hear about it. And you offer to share that. You don't force feed it, you offer to share. Because if they've not asked you the right question, it's your responsibility, not theirs, to make sure that you communicate the most relevant experience so that they can make an informed decision.